Yeah, man.
Josh, the Master Bates.
The master.
I wanted to open with that.
You know what's funny about that? So one time I was supposed to fight at one of the casinos here, and they were doing a commercial.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me. They were doing a commercial. A bunch of us went in the gym. They came into the gym, like filmed us, made a commercial out of it, and they on the commercial they put Josh the Master Bates, and like some like I don't know like crotchety old lady or soccer mom like called up and was like, that is totally unacceptable. Yeah. And so I'm like,
Well, I'm glad you caught it.
yeah, right. But so the next time they ran it, my opponent pulled out. I didn't even end up fighting on that event. And the next time they ran it, they had taken off the baits. And so it was just Josh the Master. And you got like, you know, all these other guys that are like, you know, they have their like first, last ring name, you know, and I'm just Josh the Master. And I'm like, why did you just take out the Master? Like just Josh Bates. Like I can be just Louis Cosi, you know?
Right.
Like,
Yeah. They wanted to keep the nickname.
Do you remember that? Were you there for that fight?
I don't think so.
I don't know if it was.
I've only seen like, I think 1 or 2 of your fights.
Oh no, I was talking about Lewis's fight. So Lewis had a fight, and after one of his fights, it was like very, very early. It was still amateur, and he went in there like does what Lewis does, and like the ring announcer was like, so like, are you Louis Cosi? Like no nickname? He's like, nah, just Louis Cosi.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I remember that. Like, no.
Yeah. So now every time I see him, just Louis Cosi.
Yeah.
What's up, just Louis Cosi?
Louis No Name Cosi.
Yeah, right. Shit, he's making a name for himself now.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It'd be exciting to see what that kid does in like three years down the road.
Shit, right now.
Yeah.
If he had the opportunity.
He's making his own opportunities. I mean, being down in San Francisco, they're doing from what I heard, they're doing a the URCC, they're doing like their next event in Vegas. I think they're going to either do their next one at the Cow Palace as well again, and then the following one is Vegas or vice versa. But either way, they're like huge on putting him and Orion on that Vegas show, which I mean, like, you're like the fight mecca of the world in Vegas, you know, like that's like the casino that they're doing it at, is like right down the road from like the UFC headquarters. So it's like, you know, Dana's probably going to be there. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, cause you know, he'll probably go there on his lunch break.
All right.
Like, yeah, fuck it. Whatever.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. It's good.
Cussing? No cussing?
Oh yeah. You can cuss.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. Fuck yeah. I know. I asked Daryl, I was like, hey man, you know, like I smoke pot and I cuss and you know, like I do. Is that all right? He's like, well, we'll see. You know?
Yeah.
Close to cuffle, we'll see if it's all right.
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
Like, just don't hotbox the room.
Yeah, just don't hotbox it.
Like, as long as like no smoke is coming underneath the doors, like the doorway, like.
Yeah, no doobies.
Yeah.
Yeah, we Dante and Dan both brought whiskey. I shot them both the same day, so I was
okay.
Like, fuck it. But yeah, they brought it on. He's like, well, maybe wait till like after hours, you know, like nighttime, not drinking during the day.
Yeah, we could do that.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah, that was funny. I went to pick up lunch for my fiance, and she wanted something, and so like I got a nitro. Like, man, like these nitro brews. Yeah. Like.
Just kick it into high gear.
Man, say whatever you want. Like, you can call me like not a capitalist, but a consumerist. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, you can call me like whatever you want. Like these nitro brews.
Money.
Yeah.
Are they expensive?
Like, I don't know, $4 or whatever. You know.
Yeah, about average for a Starbucks.
Yeah. But they only have like 60 calories or something like that. So I'm like, all right, cool.
I don't even know anything about it.
Yeah.
What is it? Just a nitro.
Taste it.
Has it got dairy in it? You're gonna make me fucking puke. Just
kidding. Yeah, it tastes like
coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it gives it like it comes out of a keg, so it's like it gives you a little.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So nitrous
yeah,
pour.
yeah.
I see.
So.
Oh yeah, it's smooth though.
Yeah, I'm like Joe Rogan. He's got whiskey. I've got nitro. Like, and
Right on, man.
I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
Probably gonna make me poop my pants too, but whatever.
A little slip and slide.
Yeah, we're gonna have a cut like in between the video. Some cheesy music, like jazz music. Yeah, man. But
all right, well, let's talk about you.
talk about me.
Yeah, you're good at that. Yeah,
man.
Let's
Jeez.
talk about you.
I don't like doing that anymore.
No?
No, man. You gotta. That's the thing with fighting.
Hey, you talked about yourself during the interview when you interviewed me. You're like, oh well, back in my day. I'm
yeah.
Like, this motherfucker.
Well, that's what I was saying. I was like, that was actually a really fun interview because like it was more like this than it was like the other. Like that's the nice thing about like interviewing guys that that you have a rapport with. Is it like it doesn't really. Those other interviews, like interviewing guys that you don't know, like they're super, super rigid.
Yeah. Well, that and it's also like an interview. There's some structure to it, or there should be some structure to it, and so that makes people feel like uneasy, and they can't like really kind of be themselves if they're trying to like fall into that structure. Like I know. When I did my interview down at the TV station last year, terrible.
Oh,
like,
those are wild.
I was like, why did you ask me these questions? And then why, like we should have done it way more just how you and I did it, and it would have been 10 times better,
Yeah, like when you go up there, because I've done that.
Yeah.
And you go through all the stations, or excuse me. The way that we used to do it was there was one place that had like all the stations in the same building. Excuse me. So you would like go from like room to room, and like back then there was only one. I think there was only one guy who was like even remotely a fight fan. So like those like anytime we did interviews with him, they were a little bit longer, a little bit more fun.
Yeah.
I remember.
Yeah, if they're not a fan, it's like
no. There was like one DJ that he like legit asked us like 2, maybe 3 questions, 30 seconds, and then we were out. I was like,
yeah, what the hell?
Well, what did I come up here for? But it's like, all right, like somebody got
short clips.
Somebody got hosed on their advertising.
So you grew up in Humboldt, right?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, okay,
yeah. I was born down in Sonoma, but I moved up here like early.
Okay.
Which is wild, man, because like.
So now it's weird when people grew up locally because then you have 20 years of history of meeting new people and getting to know the area.
Yeah.
So you have a lot more connects than the average person.
Yeah, man, it's like. So when I got with my fiance.
Yeah. What's her name?
Cheyenne Hoffman. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Incredible. So when we first started dating, she's like, we literally can't go anywhere.
Right, because everyone knows you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, at first it was like kind of a joke, but then like it got to the point where it was like, man, it's like, it's really not that funny, know, because it's like, it's almost, how can I say this? Because it's great,
well,
it's
you
like
get caught up in conversation, so I know why she hates it.
Yeah,
because you're like, oh, babe, so like, oh, hey, what's up? You start talking 20 minutes later.
Yeah, well, I don't want to be that guy that's like, oh, hey, well, yeah, see you later. Like if you're
busy.
If somebody's gonna take their time out of their day to like acknowledge you, like I feel like it's only the right thing to do to like
give them 2 minutes.
Yeah, but like
or 20.
Yeah, you get to a point where it's like, oh, how nice do you have to be?
Yeah.
She's like, you don't have to be that nice.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I knew them in 7th grade,
That's funny, yeah.
But it's crazy because like, you grow up here,
such a small place.
Yeah, and for as long as I fought here, played football here, worked at the bar, like with all those things, like you really can't get away from it, and it's like.
Sometimes it's a blessing, though.
It is because it's like it's a nice way to network.
Hold on, let me tell you this story. This my buddy, he's a friend of my sister's. I forget his name, but he's an accountant. And he got drunk at Toby's the other night and left his jacket there with his keys in it.
Okay.
And so I looked at it, and I found the keys, and I was like, holy shit, like, someone's gonna come looking for these. But because it's such a small world, I get a text from him, and he's like, "Hey man, I got so drunk and I left my keys there. Are they there?" And I'm like, "Yep, they're here, man. They're up on the fireplace." If it was like anywhere else, they'd be gone, or never find his keys again. But just because you know who you know, like everyone just kind of looks out for each other a little bit.
Yeah, it's nice, like it's kind of a double-edged sword because it gives you like a it's nice to, like, I'm extremely grateful for like all the relationships like I've built over the years, but it gives me like just a small glimpse of what it's like to be like an actual celebrity, like, because I only get like maybe like a grain of it, you know what I mean, compared to like, you look at somebody who's like Justin Bieber or something like that, like they literally, I mean, because I will, like you get, and I'm sure you get it now.
Oh yeah, I'm on a billboard exiting Arcata. You can.
Yeah, right. Yeah. With
some guy came up, he's like, "You're on the billboard." I'm like, "Yes, I am."
That was against Ray, wasn't it?
Yeah. Hanging upside down on his arm.
Yeah, that's a pretty dope picture.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, Ray's a cool dude, man. But that was a dope picture.
So I get it.
Well, yeah, because you'll get people when you fight. You'll get people that like, you have no idea who these people are,
right?
But they know you because it's like, oh, like I either saw you fight or somebody that I know knows you, and they'll come up and they'll be like, hey, like, how's it going? And you're like, I've never seen you in my freaking life, But it's like, it's nice to be acknowledged for what you do, in that way. But man, like it's really nice going out of town. Yeah, it's really nice going out of town because like you can go out of town and like you don't run into a single person.
That's true.
And that's like the nice part of like not being like a local or being like a local celebrity. Like it's only local,
That's true.
But yeah. So
now what are you doing now? Like you're doing a bunch of stuff, aren't you? I know. All I know is that you announce, and that's literally all I know.
Yeah, I've been doing some matchmaking.
Yeah. Did you do any for this October fight?
Mm-hmm. Cool. Yeah, I've done quite a few actually. This is the first event that I've like really worked hard on, like, because when we first started matchmaking, when I first started doing it, I was like kind of jumping into events that were like semi-booked already. And then this was the first one where it was like from scratch. Like nice. I was already like, and that's also the nice part about being in the fight game, like for a long time, is that, like, I mean, I fought in a lot of different places, like up in Oregon, like Medford, Portland. I've fought down in like places, south, like San Jose, Reno, whatever. And when you have fought for like, a pretty good amount of time, and you fought like geographically like a decent, area, you like create a lot of relationships, so when I was asked to do it, it was like pretty much because it's like, well, you've been in the fight game for a long time, like, a lot of people, like, and I was like, oh yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, I guess I do, like, and it's all like, that's the nice thing about Facebook, like people bash on social media, man, but like, I remember when I stopped playing football.
High school?
College.
Oh, college.
Yeah, I played up here.
At HSU?
No, I played at CR.
CR?
Yeah,
nice.
I played up there for a year, and then I'd never played football before. That's actually like a big part of my like journey into MMA, because I'd never gotten into a fight. Like when I was a kid, I never once got into a fight. Like I got into like, like little scuffles. Yeah. But I'd never gotten into like a like a fight as we know it. Right. You know what I mean? Where like blood was shed and
broken teeth.
And and I had like a pretty rough experience at home, so I was like always afraid to fight. Like confrontation was not like, I was afraid of confrontation. I walked away from a lot of fights, and it wasn't because like I was the bigger person, I was like terrified of that. And wasn't allowed to wrestle, wasn't allowed to play football. I played soccer and baseball for like almost 14 years, whatever. And so when I became an adult, I was like, yeah, like I can go to school, like I can choose to do
Try
it.
New things.
Yeah, I was like, I'm gonna play football, and
nice.
They're just tangible things that, it's like trying to fight somebody who's fought for 10 years, and you're stepping in like for the very first time. Like athletically, you could be right on par with that person, but like there's just the tangible things, like jiu-jitsu is tangible, like, because you can take the most unathletic guy and he can still be good at jiu-jitsu, and even like striking, like that, maybe not that's maybe not as good of example as jiu-jitsu, but like, you know, you
well,
have
striking. There's puncher's chance.
Man, I've never liked that quote.
I don't like it either, but it makes sense.
Yeah,
it makes
well,
sense.
a puncher's no, a puncher's chance. Yeah, I do like that. When people say a lucky punch, like I don't like I've always hated that, because it's like if I ball my fist up, and I throw it with the intention of aiming at your head and I connect, like that's not lucky. Like I'm doing like I'm
right,
like throwing it. You know, but yeah, you're right. Like puncher's chance, like absolutely. You know, like everybody has that when they you know just do this, but yeah, with football there was just like tangible stuff that like I just couldn't catch up with fast enough.
There's also a size discrepancy.
Huge.
Like my build, your build, we're not NFL.
Man, so I fought at 125 pounds. When I was playing football, I was 175.
Holy shit.
Yeah, with like pretty much the same percentage of body fat.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, so when I first started fighting, I played football for 1 year, and I just realized like I just wasn't on par with everybody else, like, you know, from a skill set.
What position were you trying to?
A receiver.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so like that, you know, like there was stuff like quickness, you know,
like quick.
Yeah, catching, you know, like it was like the stuff like, you know, like for like football fans, like, you know, like getting off of like a press, you know, like working that footwork to like, you know, there's a lot of footwork involved, a lot of hand fighting involved, you know, that you just the little things like that. And there's like, I mean, almost an infinite amount of ways to like get off a press, you know, but like you can learn one or two, but like when you go against like a savvy guy who's been playing, you know, cornerback for 10 years, it's like he knows those tricks, you know, those one or two tricks. You got to have like a whole bag, you know, and trying to catch up in a year's time, just I didn't mind like.
So you found fighting when that didn't work out?
Yeah, because I was like, I just don't think
Your
I'm
phone just ring?
Man,
Yeah,
I know. I'm terrible. Look, a celebrity, right? You know, no, I'm kidding.
People want to talk to you.
Right? No, I got to shut it off. But yeah, so I actually played with a guy who I was just telling him, I was like, man, I don't think I'm going to come back next year. Like, I think I'm going to, you know, like I was still like in my athletic prime. I was like, you know, like I can't. I played sports my whole life.
Yeah.
So I was like,
not do it.
Yeah.
Right.
So I was like, well, I think I want to get into MMA. And this was like 2006, 2007. And back then, like, that was like, there were no gyms around that, like, there were no fight gyms around here. There was one like straight up gi jiu-jitsu that was like a club almost. Like it wasn't even like, you didn't have guys who like were fighting.
Yeah.
You know.
Do you remember the UFC champs at that time? Was it like Anderson Silva era?
It was even before that. It was like Jens Pulver. I remember like.
So like BJ Penn, Jens Pulver.
Yeah.
Okay,
And that was when. That's actually Jens Pulver was like the reason why I got into fighting, because like I would watch him and I was just like
I could be that guy.
Yeah, because I think at that time when I first started watching him.
Oh, crazy guy.
They didn't even have 155 at that point.
Really?
Yeah, they didn't even. I don't think they had 155 at that point. And he was like the first guy, or maybe it was. Yeah, it was like he was like the small guy. He was like the small guy that like did it. You know, that like established like, hey, like, you know, these little guys, they can, you know, they can really do like you know, they can be exciting. You know, and he had a really similar background. I'm turning my phone off. He had a really similar background growing up. You know, he and that kind of like really, you know, that really like made me tune into him specifically, because I remember like even before I like really, maybe I watched him like once or twice, you know, and then I like, they used to have an MMA magazine. Man, like this is before all Reebok stuff. Like before Reebok, man, there was just like, before the Reebok deal, there was like MMA magazines, MMA apparel, like everything was booming because advertising was just like out of the roof.
Yeah.
And then the UFC signed that
range.
deal. Yeah. But I remember reading like his story in one of the magazines, you know, and he was like, you know, he had an abusive dad, and he was like, his mission was like to go out and like make the Pulver name like mean something, you know. He's like, I don't want it to be like, you know, something that people know, like, you
Right.
know, because of an alcoholic,
Want to
abusive
make a
dad.
legacy.
Yeah, yeah. He's like, I want to make the name good, you know,
Mhm.
rather than what it's been. So I was like, hey, that's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like, I'll do the same thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I watched him, and he was just like a man. You look at him, and he was just like a scrappy dude. Like he didn't
Mhm.
really know like much, but well, excuse me, he wasn't like dominant at like one certain thing. He wasn't like a world class kickboxer. He
Yeah,
wasn't
he's
like
just
a
very
jiu-jitsu
well-rounded.
champion. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
But he was part of that. He was part of that Militich crew, like Pat Militich
Mhm.
and Matt Hughes and Tim Sylvia, and there was a ton of those guys.
Mm.
Those guys all have CTE now,
Yeah.
but because they just those guys, that was like a historic gym out in the Midwest. They would just like literally beat on each other.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
train to knock out every day.
They all, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of phased out by now.
That's
like
re-
there's very few gyms that still go hardcore.
Yeah.
That I've heard of.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure there's smaller gyms, but
Yeah, if people are still doing that, they're like way behind the times,
Yeah.
really way behind
Yeah,
the
they
times.
are.
Because you know, like, well, the whole it's funny because like the idea back then was like, if you train your chin to be strong, like if you spar a lot and you train your chin to be strong, you won't get knocked out in a fight. But like, well, what we know now, like it's a complete opposite of that.
Mhm,
Like,
yeah, if you get knocked out a lot,
yeah. Like
the chances of getting knocked
yeah.
out are pretty good.
Yeah, if you pop that cherry, like it's downhill from there.
Mhm.
You know, so yeah, it's nice to see the sports evolved in that way.
Mhm.
You know, but like man, that was kind of the crazy thing getting into it back then. Like nobody, like even for like us here, you know, in up on the North Coast, like I said, when I first started, there wasn't like any like gyms. You know, like I think within the first year or two that I started, there was like gyms that were like, there was one gym that opened up, and like guys didn't really know what they were doing. We were just kind of like, you know, it's kind of like scientists, you know, like you kind of just do stuff.
Mhm.
And then
Time will tell.
well, yeah, you know, like, you know, because scientists, they get together and they all work on the same project, and you know, they're able to, you know, prove things correctly or, you know, disprove things, and kind of like they keep the good and throw out the bad, you know,
Mhm.
and they keep building on it, and then finally you have like a rocket ship, you know,
Mhm.
and that's kind of,
So what was the first gym that you started fighting
it's
at?
called Humboldt Gym. Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah, right? Yeah, like the most generic, like, yeah. And that was like, that gym wasn't even around that long. I mean, maybe a year or two,
Yeah.
you know.
Just
but
more of like a hobby than a business.
kind of, you know, like, the one thing that I always,
You might as well just say
man,
it, man.
the one thing
Don't
I
hold
noticed,
back.
yeah, okay, so, like, man, there's,
Just pretend they're all dead. You know?
There's, yeah, not about these guys specifically, but one thing I noticed about the sport, this was something I noticed for myself, and it kind of made me hit a crossroads. Is that I remember talking to a guy one time, and he was like, who was accomplished martial artist. He was a big jiu-jitsu guy, and he was saying like flat out, like, guys fight because they don't have, like, they don't know what else to do, or they don't have anything else, you know. And for like, you know, I started thinking about it, and it's like, wow, like, you know, like take guys in the UFC. You know, I remember hearing about like Josh Koscheck, like he was like very successful, you know, like owned his own plane, like owned his own like accounting business.
Really?
Yeah, like very successful, you know. And you had like other guys, like Shane Carwin was like an engineer, you know, like, you know, you would have like a handful of guys that were like kind of doing it on the side, but by and large, like guys did it because like they didn't know what else to fucking do,
Yeah.
you know. And I just kind of got to the point where I was like, man, you know, like my daughter was born by that time. She was starting to get older, because my daughter wasn't even born when I first started fighting. And then it was kind
How
of
old
like,
were you when you first got in the cage?
what was I, 20?
Like mid-20s?
Yeah, mid-20s. And then yeah, I got to a point where like she started getting older, you know, and I'm like, she started getting like interested in like things herself. Like this is even before school, you know, which was really nice. Before she got into school, like it was something I was doing. Like I could do it like anytime I wanted, because like I just like packed some stuff up with her, and like it was cool, you know, like I could just bring her with me. Didn't have to worry about bedtimes, So if I had to like train late, it's like whatever. She can wake up at she'll wake up at 11 o'clock the next day, and we'll go to the park, like have some pancakes after that, whatever. But then she started going to school, and that's when I was like, man, like my time with her is like even split in half now,
right?
And I kind of just got to the point where I was like, man, like I was kind of doing like it was kind of like a cool thing or a fun thing for me to do, like after I got done playing football, fun thing for me to do like while she was growing up, but like her stuff started taking over. Like now she's playing soccer and like she wants to get into acting, and it's like, at what point do like these goals of fighting get in the way of her goals? Like they say like great men aren't afraid to be small, and I think that's like really true. Like you think of like you hear stories of like parents who are like janitors, like migrant workers who just like work themselves to the bone to like create a future for their kids, and it's like I think those are like the most like unheralded people like in the world, because they sacrifice like whatever potential they had in whatever endeavor, to make like good things for their children, And so
now she does jujitsu too, right?
Yeah, she does jujitsu. She's like,
yeah,
kind of does jujitsu.
Did she go down to that tournament?
No, she didn't. No,
Okay.
because she's playing soccer now.
Okay.
Yeah, my big thing for her is if she's gonna be in athletics, I want her to. I learned this from another guy. If she's gonna be in athletics, I want her to be in something that she can create like an opportunity for herself. And who knows? Like I want to expose her to as many like sports as I can, like the ones that are popular for girls, like soccer, basketball, volleyball. She's going to be tall, so she'll be taller than my ass. But yeah, like, I want her to at least try.
Have the opportunity.
Yeah, because like I feel if I start her young enough, at least one she'll like catch on with. Like she's super stoked about soccer right now, and if she like continues with soccer, like awesome, as long as it's something like she's never gonna get a scholarship with jiu-jitsu, you know what I mean? Like she'll never like.
That's true. Yeah.
So like if she can get
shit'll probably be in the Olympics though by the time she's of age.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully. I mean it should be.
Yeah.
It should be. I mean it absolutely should be.
If judo is, fuck.
Yeah, well, I mean, more people at this point do jiu-jitsu than judo. Honestly.
Yeah.
I love judo though, man, because it's like for the same reason why people love MMA rather than just straight jiu-jitsu, because like MMA there's slams, there's punches, with judo there's throws. But yeah, like she's in that way now. And
how old is she now?
She's 8. Yeah,
yeah. Like second, third grade.
She's 3rd grade.
Nice.
Yeah, but yeah, I kind of got to a point with fighting where it was like, man, you look at guys in the UFC. This is the shitty part of the sport, is that I started like in the UFC they do those like they're not the embedded series. So every time they like have a big fight, they'll like do those embedded series, and they'll kind of like they'll shadow guys, like whoever they're documenting.
A little behind the scenes.
Yeah, they'll film them like at their home and stuff, and I watched enough of those to like realize like maybe not guys that are like in the top 5, or maybe like the top 2 guys in like every weight class, but like you'll look at guys who are in like the top 15, like guys who are ranked like 15, 14, 13, whatever. And these guys are living in places that are like worse conditioned than like the average home. Like they're living in like some dumpy apartment that's like, I'm like, man, like this guy's like top 15 in the world. Right. He's like literally there's like a dozen guys that are better than him in the whole entire world. And he's living in like a 2-bedroom apartment,
Yeah.
Like not even a townhouse.
Yeah, the pay scale's not there.
Yeah. It's like, hopefully with the way things are like starting to change a little bit, with like your Connors, your Nate Diaz's, like things are starting to inch towards that way. But it's like, that's going to benefit guys 20 years from 15 years from now. Like right now, it's like the people that are doing like the guys that are in MMA right now are the guys who are like smoking cigarettes at halftime in the Super Bowl in like the 1960s that were working at the grocery store like in the off season. You know, like that's kind of how it is. And it's like, well, you know, with an 8-year-old daughter, like that shit's not paying the bills, you know, or it's not paying the bills in the way that I want to, you know? So it's like, I really started like, it sucks, man, because like, man, at one point in my life, like fighting was the most foreign thing in the world to me. And it got to the point where whether it was like, you know, fighting in the gym or working at the bar, like I was literally getting into a fight every single day, like not even exaggerating. Like whether it was either sparring or working at the bar, literally every single day. So it went from the most foreign thing in the world to like as natural as like eating or breathing, you know,
to breakfast.
Yeah. Like blinking, you know, it's just like, it's just, and it sucks, man, because like once you get into that point, fortunately I'm still like at the point athletically, I've always been like a really late bloomer. So even at my age now, like I don't feel like I'm like not able to compete athletically, you know? So totally, like, dude. So it's hard, man, because like when it gets too,
you just got to do something that's like less extreme now.
Yeah. You know, whether that's like,
I mean, who's that old dude down there?
Yeah.
Napa, Dante.
Oh man.
Yeah, we were talking about him.
Yeah, dude, that guy's raw. Yeah.
More power to you.
Yeah, man. And like, you know, that's the nice thing about jiu-jitsu, man, is that like, you know, when you do kickboxing or wrestling, like those things are like super, super hard on your body.
Impact.
Yeah, you know, and like there's certainly going to be a day where I'm not going to do that stuff anymore. But like jiu-jitsu is like one of those things where it's like, it's as hard as it is, it's as hard as it is. It's like one of those things you could do for your entire life, you know, until you're like not really even functional as a human anymore.
Right.
You know, like you'll always be able to do that.
Yeah, until you're about like 70, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Hopefully we can all, like both be one of those guys that's like transcends like that age stereotype, you know, and you're like, fuck it, like I'm still lifting weights at 78, you know, like probably not going to be going for like any like, you know, any crazy like inverted guards or anything like that. But hopefully I'll still be able to like grab onto some young buck and be like, all right, here's a collar choke.
Eat your belt, bitch.
Yeah, right. Think you're a blue belt and all crazy? I'll show you, sonny.
That's funny.
Yeah, but yeah, just you know, it's tough, man, because like the sport, like you do it for the love of the game. Because right now where it's at, it's like it's just not. It's not profitable, you know. Like, and even,
are you getting paid for that whole announcing thing? You don't have to disclose, but just give me
They make it worth it.
Yeah. Well, hey, there you go, man. At least you're still involved somehow.
Yeah, you know, and it's shit. Like it's, man.
How was it doing it with Ross?
Awesome.
That was like the first time you guys.
Awesome, dude. Ross is like he's like a fish to water when it comes to that.
Right.
Yeah, which it's awesome, man, because like, so the way I do it, like I'm doing the streaming and the commentating, you know, and like you have to be like engaged with when you're streaming. It's like I don't know. Are you familiar with like live streams, like gaming?
Yeah,
like Twitch. Yeah. So like you have to, with those guys, like the most successful guys are guys who do it on the PC, from what I understand, because I'm not like super like into that, you know, but I understand it enough to where like while you're playing, you still have to be engaging with the audience. Yeah. You know, so like when you're streaming, you have people commenting on the stuff, you know,
and then you're looking over and you're talking to them.
You know, to talk to that, and like, you know, fortunately it'll get to the point where, you know, somebody will be doing that exclusively. We won't even be like, the filming will be like totally somebody handheld, you know, like over the shoulder, whatever. Excuse me. So at some point it'll be nice to just be strictly doing just the announcing, you know, but it was nice. It's definitely Ross, man. He lights out, man, because he could like, I could take my focus on somewhere else, and it's really nice to man, like sometimes I'll listen back to like myself when I'm just doing it by myself, and it's super hard to be like a one-man commentator. Yeah. You know, because like you're having to do the color and the play-by-play at the same time, and it's just like, And
Yeah.
you listen to yourself and you're like, oh.
Yeah, and then you gotta like plug stuff. You want to plug the fighters, you know.
Yeah. Ross, I mean, he brings the same energy level announcing that he does when he's fighting.
Yeah.
Like same volume.
I noticed though when I see like amateur commentators versus like the high level guys, it's like the volume of their voice. Or even if like Joe Rogan, say back in the day when he first started, he was just like so amped to be there, you know, kind of like how Ross was. He's like, yeah, and he's like yelling about it. Whereas in now, it's very just like, okay, like when man, who's that bantamweight? That's the commentator now. He was champ for a while.
Dominic Cruz?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like him when he's talking or Daniel Cormier is talking, like they're just you know, they're very composed and they're not getting like into the fight, you know. And I think I noticed there's a difference right there.
You know what's crazy? There are so many, and I didn't notice this until I first started commentating. But it's like when you first start commentating, it's like when you first start fighting. Right. So like when you first start,
oh my God, shit's happening, everything's going crazy.
Well, you know, like I'll tell guys like, you know, that are having like their first couple fights, like, man, like there's the best thing you could do is stay calm. Like, cause like I'll tell them like straight out, there's nothing that you can do in the gym that's gonna simulate what it's actually like to get up there. Like you could be a guy who trains 5 years. When you get into the cage for the first time, like, you know, you get up in there and you're on this, you know, you're elevated, you know, so everybody else can see you.
Yeah, everyone's looking at your butt crack.
Yeah, that too. But like, it almost feels like you're elevated, but it almost feels like the crowd is like right on top of you, you know, and you can't see anything. Like those, you know, the lights, it's like the heat of the lights, you know,
lights
like
bright,
bright and hot, and like the whole crowd is like blacked out, you know, like you can't see anybody. People are like, did you see me? It's like. Yeah. 10 fights in, you can't see anybody.
And I also notice it's like, I feel like it's hard to gauge distance because there's nothing beyond them. Like you can see the cage, but it looks just black behind them. And everything's so bright.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I don't even know how far away this guy is. You know, it's like, it feels kind of weird in there.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I never really thought of it like that. You know, the way I always, what I was saying is like it's kind of like when your first fight, like when the cage door shuts and the referee's like, you ready, let's go. It's like a wave hits you, you know, and it's kind of like being on a surfboard, and like that first wave comes and it just smacks you, and it's like dumps you underwater, and you're kind of like, all right, well, I'm gonna either drown or I'm gonna get back on, you know, I'm gonna break the surface, get up on my board, and like do my thing, and that's kind of how it is. Like the wave hits you and it's like, okay, shit. Yeah, like shit, what do I do now? And then that's when like what you do in the gym actually does take over, because like that muscle memory just like kind of comes back. But like it just, you know, before you know it, the fight's over, you know, and that's kind of how it was like commentating, like, you know, the first couple times, it's just like, you know, you're doing all these different things, and it's like, I have to write down like who won by what, by what way, because it's like, it's just, you go fight from fight, you know, it's just like, how did that, like, you know, 3 fights ago, like, oh, like what happened there, you know, like you don't remember specific moments, but like before you know it, the event's over. It's like, that's it, like, and it's just like that, you know, but it's nice to, it's interesting how that like that similarities between the two, you know, but it's fun. It's definitely fun, and it's.
So you and Ross gonna keep doing it together?
Man, I hope so.
Yeah,
I hope so, because like Ross, he just.
You guys are doing the Reading one?
Yeah, I haven't talked to Ross about it, you know, but
you guys should get together, come up with a game plan.
Man, we should, yeah. Like, so he just hit me like. I mean, that like doing all that stuff is my responsibility, you know. So like that's just what when I'm prepping, like that's what I focus on, you know. I'm just focused on that. So he hit me up, and you know, like he's injured right now, so he was like,
I want to do something.
He's like, yeah, I want to do something. He's like, and you know, like it's always kind of a crapshoot when you have like, or even like, I mean, people could probably say the same thing about me, you know, like commentating, you know, like you never really know what you're gonna get until like the camera starts rolling, you know. So it's like, you know, like, you know, come along and just do it, you know, like it. You know, he asked, he's like, hey, if you don't have anybody else, like, I'll do it. And it's like I said, it's, you know, you're like, all right, well, you know, we'll just see how it goes. and turned the mic on, and I was just like,
You got it.
all right, well, I'm just gonna like do this, you know, kind of
Make
like,
sure we're
cool. Like, I'm just like, hey, like, you might have to take over like the filming, you know, like, but he was just like, you know,
and he was familiar with all the fighters too, so he knew, he had like a little bit of insight for everyone that was up there. You know,
that's actually
for the most part.
That's actually another nice thing about fighting for as long as I have is, you know, like, you know, the longer you fight, the more familiar you get with like teams, specific fighters, you know,
coaches,
territories, you know. But like, you know, when you're having like a regional show, you still, I mean, you'll have your teams that will come down like all the time, or, you know, come up all the time, you know, come over, whatever. But, you know, every so often you'll have like that guy, like, or that team, like, man, you know, we haven't seen any of these guys for a long while, you know, like, that's the nice thing about like being in it as long as I have, you know. It's just like, oh, okay, cool. Like,
maybe see the turnover.
Yeah. Because when I first started, Reading was like one of the first places I started fighting at, because they didn't, out here, they didn't even have a show. Didn't even have MMA fights out here. So it was like, that was like our home show, you know, when we first started, like, when our team first started, you know, we had like me, Jay, Roman. That was like the nucleus of when our team first started, you know, like, who else was that time? Like, Dante wasn't fighting. Orion and Lewis were still in high school. Yeah, like, it was pretty much the three of us. Actually, that's how there weren't sanctioned fights. Do you remember the So You Want to Fight? Yeah, so that's actually how I met Brian. Was I went to I competed in one of those fights, and they had them for a little bit. I know Roman had a couple fights with them already, because Roman, he was just like doing it from like way back, you know. And he had like an exhibition fight, like, you know, like the other fights were like tournament style, and he was like the main event. You know, they set him up with like a specific fight with somebody else. They competed. I was over at Masaki's, like, my sister. It was like my birthday. We went out for my birthday dinner, and I was, you know, sitting there eating, and this freaking gorilla like walks up to me, and he's like, "Hey, you're Josh Bates, right?" And I was like, yeah. Like, yeah. And I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? I couldn't even like see the lights because he was just like silhouetted. And like, my name's Brian. I'm the owner of Lost Boys. I'm like, what the fuck is that? You know, it's like, he's like, yeah, we're a gym next door. And I was like, all right. Like, he's like, I saw you fight out in Trinidad. And he's like, you should come check it out. And I finished eating, went over there, and my daughter was like, man, she was like 10 months old. No, she was a little bit older than that. She was up and walking around, but I was like in my street clothes, went over there, like, you know, there was guys like rolling on the mat because it was just straight jiu-jitsu at that time. Like, she saw like these guys on the mats just rolling around. She was like, fuck that. Like, started like crying, like ran to me, like had me, like, she wanted me to pick her up, and she was like, she was not down. She was not down. She's like, I don't know what the hell this is.
Looks scary.
But yeah. But I checked it out. I was like, man. And you know, I kind of saw the gym that I was training at that point, like Humboldt gym had already shut down. The gym that I was training at after that was like kind of like a hodgepodge of like guys who were just doing it as a hobby, not even MMA. Like, I mean, I was having to like do like straight jiu-jitsu, and then like fighting guys like in their garage that would like kickbox, you know, like, because that's kind of where things were at that time. And yeah, I saw, like, you know, they were younger guys. You know, Brian was younger. Like, I don't know if you ever met Jake Taylor, his buddy that he played football with, but
yeah, he's the realtor guy.
Yeah. But young guy, you know, young, strong, like really athletic. And I was like, oh damn, like this is a different kind of group of people that are doing this. I'm like, that I identified with, you know. So I was like, fuck yeah, like, yeah, hell yeah, you know. So I just started doing that, and Roman was already at the gym because Brian coached him for that fight. He's like, yeah, I was Coach Roman. I saw you out there. He's like, you should come over. And I was like, yeah, cool. And so I did. And then it was pretty much me, and like I remember I would do pretty much like jiu-jitsu with strikes with Roman. And I didn't even have guys like he and I were like the only guys that were like down to throw strikes, like doing jiu-jitsu. We weren't even doing kickboxing, weren't doing like necessarily wrestling. It was like just straight like jiu-jitsu with strikes. And then yeah, Jay came along. He had already been fighting as well, but he started coming to Lost Boys, and then I was like, all right, cool. Like,
you remember the first day you saw Rafa?
No.
No?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Yeah.
I'm sure he does.
I don't know.
No?
He told me a story about how when he first got there, but he said he was like 260 pounds when he first got there.
He was a big, yeah. He was
big.
like, dude, he's in phenomenal shape.
Yeah,
like,
he is now.
Man,
yeah.
Like, he deserves like the applause for getting in the shape he's in, because it's like,
buy him a ribbon.
Yeah, right.
That's funny.
We all get a medal for fighting. You should get a medal for your fitness. No, dude, that guy's a savage.
Yeah.
It would be interesting to see him fight once.
Yeah, I keep trying to like, hey, man, just do it.
Yeah.
Man, just do it. He's like, no. I'm like,
well,
just do
dude,
it.
so that's the crazy thing about the sport, man, is that like, when you have amateur guys, like take a guy like Dante, for example, like somebody who's like they're very skilled in like one specific discipline. Like you can be a guy like that. Like Dante, I don't think Dante's ever I think he had 3 fights and
he never threw a punch.
Never threw one punch,
Yeah.
But like was completely dominant from start to finish with all of his fights,
Mm-hmm.
When you're an amateur, you can like get away with that, but it's like kind of like,
well, shit, you can be a Damian Maya.
mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, his jiu-jitsu is like a whole nother level, like
well, there's levels to it, but
black belt, and then like multiple
Mm-hmm.
like degree black belt, which what he is, so he can get away with even him, like when he was like first got into the UFC, he was like really one dimensional, but even now, like he's like
mm-hmm.
rounded out his like repertoire,
Mm-hmm.
his skill set, but you can get away with that in amateur jiu-jitsu, but it's kind of at the point now, it's like with Hapa, like with what he's going, what he's a college graduate, he's moving on to like a career,
Mm-hmm.
it's like unless it's a bucket list thing, like why,
right,
why, because
but
it's
he
like,
would smash people.
he would, yeah,
He would smash them.
he
It's like
would,
you're rough.
yeah, because he's like deceptively strong, like
Yeah.
he's a good enough wrestler to like get the fight where he wants to go,
Mhm.
and then once he gets there, it's like, oh, okay, you're not,
Yeah. And his boxing's good enough to where
That's
he
what I
knows
mean.
how to block and not get hit.
right. I mean, and that's like really all you need. Like you'll see like really dominant. You look at guys like Johnny Hendricks or like Jeremy Stevens, guys who like Randy Couture was like a perfect example. Guys who would just like, they had just enough boxing to where they would cut the angles off with their strikes. They weren't like really effectively striking. They weren't trying to knock people. They weren't knocking people out. And they weren't trying to knock people out. They were just using their footwork and their punches to like kind of corral guys into a corner, against the cage. And then that's actually how that was like my style. Like I was like, like I was like, why am I going to sit here and bang with this dude when I don't have to? Like when I first started. So when I first
That's
started,
the beauty of MMA.
yeah. Well, so like, it's funny because when I first started fighting, I was 170, right? And I didn't know the first thing about cutting weight. And I had a fight at 135 that I walk around naturally. Like when I was 175, it was like I bulked up to 175, and like my natural body weight is like 155, 150, and but I was still coming down from like 170 when I did that. No, by that time I was probably like 155, 160. And I didn't know much about cutting weight, and I was like, well, I'll just take this fight at 35. I'm in pretty good shape, like that's probably like dieting and just leaning out, like not cutting, not like doing all the like the very specific things like water loading and you know, like all that stuff that you do to really maximize your weight cut. I took a fight at 135 and I was fighting a guy who was like 180, like he cut a huge amount of weight, was like a good team, like they all knew what they were doing, you know. And he smashed me, like one. I mean, it went to a decision, but like it was a unanimous decision, you know. And when I was like, man, like if I really want to be serious about this, you know, like if this is what I'm naturally walking around at, like this is like the body structure that God gave me. This is like I'm gonna need to drop to 125, you know. And it was scary, man, because like I hadn't weighed 125 since like I was like a freshman or sophomore in high school,
right?
You know. And it was just like
scary weight.
Yeah, well, because I mean, yeah, when you haven't weighed that much, like how in the world am I gonna get down there, you know? But you get down there, and like once I got down there, man, it was like that's how I dominated. Like I was the dude that was like, I use my strikes to cut off angles, get guys against the cage, dump them on their, you know, head, and then just kind of work my top game, you know, from there. And you know, it's funny, man, because like I think MMA fans are like really spoiled, you know, because like we're, you know, I mean it's kind of MMA is kind of an offshoot of boxing, and you know, so we're kind of spoiled because like that's what we've had our example of, you know, like boxing, like you just, you know, guys would get knocked out. Like that was a cool thing about boxing. That's still the cool thing about boxing is that or even kickboxing, you know, like you just see guys that get knocked out. But man, there's something I say we're kind of spoiled because like people bitch about like going to a decision, you know, but there's something to be said about like winning a unanimous decision, like a split decision. Like even then it's like, man, like that was probably like a really tough competitive fight either way. But like guys will critics, like fans will like they'll kind of shit on unanimous decisions, but it's like you have to have like a certain skill set to be so superior that you're like that you dominate a fight front to back. You might not finish a guy because like, you know, as you know, like there's just guys you'll fight that are just tough dudes, and like no matter what you throw at them, like you might win a unanimous decision, but it's like you threw everything in the kitchen sink at that dude, and he was like from a skill set maybe he wasn't on the same level, but like that guy has just as much grit and like you know, heart as you do. You know, he just couldn't compete athletically, you know. And fight fans, like they're definitely spoiled in that way, you know, because they just expect like, oh man, like if you don't knock a dude out, you suck. If you don't tap a guy out, like you suck. It's like, well, no, I mean, like there's a lot of fights where, I mean, you probably know, like there's been fights that you've had that you've won a unanimous decision that you probably had a moment or two that where you're like, oh crap, like I almost got caught in that submission.
Oh yeah. No, there was one that I lost against Jenny Garcia down there in Napa. That same day weigh-in, that camo fight. Yeah, I lost by decision to that one, and I had him in a triangle in the second round, and I couldn't even finish it. I was too tired. Yeah, that dude, same day weight cut is like this dumbest, or same day weigh-ins, excuse me. One of the dumbest ideas I've ever heard.
It's
I mean, I understand the concept behind it. They don't want people to cut the weight, but people are going to cut the weight.
People are going to cut the weight, man. That's why, like, it's unfortunate that the sport is not where, like, it needs to be in terms of, like the way that ONE FC does their stuff, where they rate
test them earlier.
Their hydration levels. Yeah. So it's like, unfortunately, with the money or the lack of thereof with camo, like, that's never going to be a thing. You know, and not only that, like camo has some really great ideas, but like the daily operation structure sucks, man. Like the people that they like delegate those responsibilities to are like people that are local that like they don't have any idea. Like I fought one time for camo. It was supposed to be I was supposed to have like what I think it was 8 hours in between the weigh-in and the fight. And the way it was organized, I ended up only having 5.
Right.
Yeah, fought outside at a fairgrounds. Like by the time I fought, it was like 100 degrees. Yeah, that was a crazy fight. Because if I knew then what I know now about weight cutting, I would have never done it.
Yeah.
Like I would have fought whatever I needed to. Because man, I could have like died. You know, like just yeah. I mean, I struggled to make the weight. You know, because I always did. Like, I think I had one fight in my whole career where the fight was actually harder than the weight cut. And that was like my first 5-round fight, you know. But other than that, it was like always the weight cut, which I mean, it was like a blessing and a curse because, you know, like that weight cut was just unbearable. But you get in the cage and it's like, okay, well, like I'm much bigger than you. So yeah, so,
we're here now.
Yeah. So this is okay, you know. But yeah, I mean, it's just it'd be nice. The idea is nice, but I mean,
it's just not gonna work.
Yeah, not.
Well, that's good, dude. We're just about hit an hour.
Man, I like it.
It goes fast, huh?
It does. It's like a fight. It's like a fight, man.
You're like, what happened?
Let's talk about you a little bit in your podcasting.
Oh yeah.
What made you get into it?
Well, it was just an idea that I had to do something where I could create content, but to where I wasn't like constantly like looking at a camera, trying to sell stuff, looking at a camera. You know, like this, it does so many positives for me. One, I get to talk to people and build relationships. Two, it gives me content so people can meet me, like they get to know me without me having to like spiel to their face like who I am.
Yeah.
You know, they just get to listen to me talk. I'm like, oh, okay, this guy.
Yeah.
And then they get to meet, you know, everyone that I get to meet. So the whole Humboldt is just so everyone can know locals, and because everyone has like let's support locals. I'm like, well, okay, well, who are the locals that you're supporting? You know, like you don't know, you just think local is better than not, but
right.
You know, so you know, you get to meet these people
in the community. Yeah, sure. Yeah. And that's awesome. Yeah, because I remember when you first started, you were like not even podcasting when you first started, like just messing with like
videos.
Yeah, you were like doing the videos in your car.
Yeah,
and it was like
the vlogs.
Yeah, like on your way to work.
Yeah, it's so weird, man.
Those were cool, dude.
I had to think of every day of like shit that I wanted to say, and it was not like anything that was worth listening to. Like in my opinion,
it was.
It's just like bullshit.
For you, it felt like that, but it was actually because I would watch them.
Yeah,
they were really interesting to me because it was like you were talking about the stuff that like we all think about on our way to work, but like it just never gets out of like our heads, you know, because we're just like
right,
you know, but you're just like sitting there like, man, like this fucking thing or that fucking thing, and I'm just like, so
right.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome, man.
Yeah, they're cool. And then I looked into like making vlogs and making videos, and I was looking at YouTubers that are like the top creators and seeing like what they're doing. And they're very artistic in their video making, you know, and it's like a whole genre and a whole industry to focus on filmmaking. It's like, well, I'm not trying to be the next Martin Scorsese, you know what I mean? Like that's not my particular interest. Like my particular interest is like real estate, fighting, and building relationships.
Yeah.
You know, and so this was just a way to kind of tie everything all together and just give me that platform to be able to, and give you a platform to, you know, support whatever you want to support. Like ideally, because lately it's just been MMA guys, like everyone from the gym. But after this, you know, I'll get into people that, you know, are maybe involved in the current politics in the county, you know, or the mayor or the chief of police or, you know, HSU professor or something, really someone that has like some kind of insight on what the day-to-day is in Humboldt, like what the issues are, you know, people that have stances, things like that. You know?
Once you get a platform, like it'll really transcend like just MMA. You know, that's like the dope thing, man. Because you like if you look at when I really started growing as an individual was when I started like looking into guys like Warren Buffett and guys like Bill Gates, and they're like, or even like strong like military people who had a lot of influence in the military, you know, like Roosevelt, you know, like they're like their whole thing was like reading a book a day, you know, because like they say that you like when you talk, you only regurgitate like the stuff that you already know,
right?
And when you listen, which is like the really
what I do,
like really like the coolest thing about this is that like, you know, once you're able to get people like, I mean, I mean, even MMA, like that's cool. Like you'll probably learn some stuff that you like never knew before, you know. But once you start like even getting out of that, like stuff that you're not like actually interested in, you know, or not inherently interested in, like that's when you like really start learning.
Yeah, then
shit.
it becomes like a 101 class. Then
Yeah.
I felt like I
Yeah,
get
you
to
get your own
absorb
private.
something from you.
Yeah, you get your own private.
Yeah, exactly.
like
Well,
a politician or
the
this.
thing
or
with
that.
like Dre, for instance, came over here from Florida, got shot in Chico. Did you know he got shot?
No, but I'm not surprised.
All right. Besides that, he did
No.
nothing he did, man. Come on.
No. It's because you know, like Dre. You know, I love you, Dre.
We're not. No.
But you know,
not
Dre,
happy that you got shot.
Yeah, no, not at all. Thank
But
God.
anyway,
Yeah.
so like his story, you know, it was just something I was like, wow, very different perspective on life. But you see why he ticks the way that he ticks, you know, because of his backstory. Same with Rafa, you know, like I learned a lot about him. Like, oh, I see.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting things that I get to like.
Yeah, you get an idea.
I can
of,
evolve through your pain. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Oh, you that sucked.
Yeah,
I'm not doing that.
yeah,
you know?
yeah. It's really unfortunate you went through that, but man,
Yeah,
I'm
thanks.
a way better individual now.
Yeah,
Yeah, because
exactly.
I didn't get shot.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm okay with that.
Right.
Yeah.
So that.
Well, shoot, I never got shot, and I hope I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, you know,
Well-
going into a little different endeavor where you know you dodge bullets. So,
Yeah.
You know that.
Well, he was just at like some random party in Chico, and he was you know, these Norteños gang members were trying to like steal his buddy's bike, and he was just like, "Hey man, don't steal that bike!" And everyone was drunk. It got escalated, and they just started popping shots. Him and his buddy got shot.
Nothing good ever happened in Chico. That's where I had that fight at the fairgrounds.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That was.
Yeah, I've only ever driven through it. I've never really visited.
Don't, dude.
Yeah.
Chico's like a freaking. Where are you from originally?
Lake County.
Oh, you are.
Yeah.
Oh, that's where my fiance's from.
Mm.
Yeah. She went to Lower Lake actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
I went to Lower Lake when I was in like second grade. I
Yeah.
played 1 year of football there, and
That place is
never
the
played
most
again.
depressing place. You know what Lake County reminds me of? You ever play video games a little bit?
Back in the day.
GTA.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Lake County reminds me of like you know Trevor from GTA. What is it, 5? Oh, it's like,
It's been years, bro.
yeah. Anybody that plays Lake County is like Trevor's area in GTA 5. Like just a dump. Like, it's just like trailer parks and dirt. And,
Yeah. The streets are literally dirt
Yeah.
because the city doesn't want to pay for it. They have some weird, crazy ordinances there.
But you go around the 20, like you go to like
Yeah.
Lakeport and
I grew up all
McNeese.
over the lake. So I grew up in originally it was Clear Lake Oaks, which
Yeah.
is the real dump of the dump.
Yeah.
Then Clear Lake, went to school in Lower Lake, then moved over to Lakeport, and pretty much grew up in Lakeport from there.
Crazy thing about that is that like you attach Oaks to anything else, like any other place that has Oaks attached to it, it's like super uppity.
Yeah, it sounds nice.
Yeah. Clear Lake Oaks is like
Yeah.
like you go to Clear Lake, like I think about buying a place at Clear Lake Oaks. It's
Yeah,
like
like,
no, don't do that.
No, dude.
Don't do that.
I think of Poison Oak.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
You don't want that.
Yeah. You definitely don't want that.
But no, I have family that lives down in Rio Dell, and my sister grew up here and went to HSU.
Okay, yeah,
So
yeah.
after I got out of the Army, she's like, "Oh, come up here and fight," because I was trying to get into fighting, and there was no gyms down there.
Yeah.
And so I came up here, and Heather had already gone to Lost Boys. You know my sister.
Yeah.
And so yeah, she brought me up there, and fucking been
Why
fighting
does
ever since.
she should still train. She hangs out with people at the gym.
She lives down in Rio Dell now.
Ooh.
She teaches high school in Fortuna.
Oh, that's cool.
Mhm.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Rio Dell, like that's an interesting little place.
Yeah.
Yeah. She lives out there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, she runs a place. Mainly just because her son is down there, and
Okay.
so you got the whole parenting
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
But she would rather be up here in Arcata. Like I think Arcata is probably the best town to live in
Humboldt.
Humboldt.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely. I mean, you get the
you get everything.
best of everything, and not only that, like I think the dopest thing about Arcade is you don't even need a car.
No, you don't.
You don't.
Yeah,
like,
I live 3 blocks away.
Yeah. That's the way to do
I'll
it.
walk
Like
here.
yeah, just like chilling.
Mhm.
Yeah, Chico, man. Anybody that I've
Where the fuck Chico?
yeah, like, anybody that I've ever known, like from Humboldt or any place else that like Chico's like a black hole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Fuck that place.
Yeah, I heard. Yeah, I don't know, dude. So I don't know when my battery's gonna
might
die.
be dying. So,
but if it
right.
dies, I don't know if it'll actually keep all the recordings.
Okay, so we're done.
Yeah, we'll just end it now. Thanks, Josh.
Thanks, Tyler.
The master Bates.
The string bean.
The string bean.
The string bean master.
Thanks, Colin.
Yeah, thanks, bud.